when you find something that nobody else knows about and you're kind of at that ground level with it, like I get people all the time that are, they'll see the logo on my shirt or somehow somebody's like, wait a minute, you're Ogre Sauce? And then like they know about it.
It's
and,
crazy.
and they get so excited about a product that they feel like they're invested in, I think.
Yeah. There was one more thing I forgot to tell you about when we first got started that was huge for us. We did a Kickstarter campaign.
Yeah.
And I can't believe I forgot about that because it's like, that's one of the skills, like Chris, the CMO, like he knows how to do that stuff. Imagine, and you don't know anything about computers, to have someone on board that can just start a Kickstarter campaign. And that thing was crazy. Like $52,000 made for a barbecue sauce it was wild. We still have customers coming in saying, I've been ordering you since Kickstarter. That's the first thing we did, but that was huge. I mean, we probably sold 2,500 bottles on that thing. It was crazy. It made us realize that
that shipping costs money.
Yes, that shipping. That $52,000 was gone really fast. So if you do want to start fast, I guess this would be in the advice column for someone new. Kickstarter is the bomb. We went up to their headquarters. Chris and I went to go see a Radiohead show in New York. Like, this is 5 years after the Kickstarter campaign. And we went and knocked on the door and we had our gear on, right? And the guy opened the door and he goes, Ogre Sauce. And we went in there and everyone in there knew who we were. And it was like 5 years ago when we had because it was just crazy. So we've also found out that you got to have a balance there because you can sell thousands of bottles online. And a brick and mortar store can order 1,000 bottles in one order.
Yeah, so you love those.
You love the. So you just got to find you got to find that balance. You can never go big enough online.
Hey guys, this is John Cloud Brandwith. Thank you so much for listening in today. We're here with the Ogre Sauce team. And how you guys doing today?
Doing pretty well. I'm Michael Weeks. AKA Ogre. The sauce is kind of named after me. And this is the other Mike.
Yep. Mike Vianos. We've been friends since we were like 4 years old. Grew up in the same neighborhood, same city. And we're co-founders of Ogre Sauce.
Man, super awesome. Super awesome. Well, let's get right into the beginning. What's your background? How'd you guys get into Ogre Sauce?
We kind of fell into Ogre Sauce a bit. I was going up and helping take care of my grandfather just up the road in North Carolina here, in a little town called Burlington. And I would go cook for my grandfather and I would use my grandmother's recipes. And he wanted barbecue ribs one time. I'd never cooked this. I was 20 something at the time.
Yeah.
This is 9. And so I ended up cooking ribs. At the time, you didn't have the thousands of sauces that are on every aisle in every grocery store now. And you only had like 2 or 3 barbecue sauces at a grocery store that you could get. And I never particularly liked any of them. And pulled out a recipe that my grandmother had. Made it the first time I ever cooked ribs. I loved it. Thought it was great. And then I was at the U.S. Open '99 with a big group of friends camping out on the Sand Hill Turf Farm, a couple miles down the road from the venue. And on my night to cook with my group, we did 20 racks of ribs. And that kind of was the beginning of Ogre Sauce at that point. I think we started off with about 10 racks of ribs. And then I think we ended up going out and buying more. So I think everybody ate an entire rack of ribs that night while we were down there. And then afterwards, everybody kept, anytime there was a reason to get together, whether it was Super Bowl, any kind of a get together event, they would say, hey, call Ogre, have him make that sauce. And that's kind of how the sauce got its name, because it was the Ogre Sauce.
I love that, man. That's a great story. So when did you decide to turn this into a business?
That was not until after 2010, my wedding. We gave out little samples of Ogre Sauce to everybody as wedding gifts. And people were raving about it. And that's when Mike was like, dude, we got to do something with this. We got to really bottle this stuff. And I am not so great at a lot of the paperwork and red tape. And Mike is actually very proficient at that type of work. And that was all I needed to help get things going. So together we were actually able to make one part one.
Yeah, I remember getting it at his wedding. It had these cool little hexagon bottles, and it was just a great touch. I mean, everyone was freaking out about the sauce. And so I just the simplest plan would be if I do all the the bottling, and getting the labels made and the design and stuff like that. And with his
And having to go through the FDA approval, all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff,
Yeah, exactly.
that is where a lot of people will give up.
Yeah, because it was strange because we both come from a digital background, like a virtual background. So to do this through the North Carolina State University and get the nutritional label and all the ingredients right and all was intense. But we found a co-packer, and so that process was interesting as well. They were still small like us, so it was out in the middle of a field in North Carolina. It's almost like you get there and you're excited and you're like, where are we? Like, what are we doing here? It was just this building in a field. It was
Yeah,
wild.
it was good timing, to meet up with them. At the time, they helped us through a lot of the growing pains of figuring out what we were doing. So that was a big step.
Yeah.
Was being able to find somewhere. It's hard to find a good co-packer.
Yeah, especially a reliable one that has your back. But they were at a size where they were invested in us to do well because they were so small. So that was lucky for us there. And that was what was that, 6 hours of tasting?
Yeah, it
Like,
was a long time.
yeah.
I didn't think that was gonna. There's just so much involved of things that you don't think about. They come out for a tasting, and when I'd made a lot of batches of sauce at restaurants. There was a East Boulevard Bar and Grill here in Charlotte that I used to go in and make a 10-gallon batch about every other week or so. And so I had made 10 to 20 gallons at a time before, but I'd never really scaled up to a large size and had no idea of the complications of doing. You don't get to just multiply everything by how much you want to make. Like, it actually changes the recipe. So they were so good at figuring out and knowing what things were going to taste like. But when they came out and we had to do the tasting, I was like, this isn't right. And then they go back and they make an adjustment, and they would ask me specific questions about the flavor and what I was getting out of it. And whatever I'd say, he'd run back in, and 10 minutes later, he made an adjustment, came back out, and we'd taste it, and it was getting closer and closer. But there was just so much to that process that I would have never even thought about until we were in the middle of it.
I mean, and for someone like oh, sorry, go ahead, John.
No, I'm listening.
No, it's for like a layperson like me who doesn't know anything about cooking. He'd run back and he'd put like a touch of honey in there. I'm like, that's not going to do anything. And he'd come back and even for someone like me, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's better. Like, and just steps, like even adding just a little bit of vinegar, it was amazing how it got different. And sure enough, he got that right on point.
Yeah, and then with a lot of just small adjustments to where to make sure there's no aftertaste and things like that.
Yeah.
That it was interesting. It was eye opening to how much art there is involved in a lot of that stuff.
Man, that's super cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we did the first batch, and then we realized that if we were going to go where we wanted to go, we had to get the high fructose corn syrup out of it. So then you have to switch ketchups, right? Oh my goodness. So then you go back,
Yeah.
the ketchup is a big ingredient that
Yeah.
you switch
For
that, then you have to
barbecue,
go do it all over again. Because
Yeah, because my original recipe
yeah.
was, like French's, yellow mustard, and name brand stuff, and you can't afford to put all that stuff together. It would be way too expensive. So finally figuring out the recipe the way we had it, and then having to change ketchup on top of that, that it started the whole process over again, to where I didn't think it was going to work. When I first tasted the new ketchup, we had to make all kinds of adjustments to make it taste the same again, and that was scary. When we were doing it, I was like, this isn't going to work. I was like, this is awful. But they got it, and they helped us figure that out. So
which was
Awesome.
super important, because then you get and Whole Foods comes into the picture. You get your ingredients right, and I think that's what have sparked it too, is because Whole Foods was having a local.
Yeah.
Like they only did one of these. Well, I think I told you this earlier, John. They only did one of these local markets in where was it, up almost to the lake,
it was up near the lake.
up near Lake Norman, which is just north of Charlotte here. And we were there, and the guy, I mean, he was remember that he's a Kansas City barbecue fan. He's like, I'm Kansas City, so I don't know about these, but your product's pretty good. And we're like, okay, we didn't know how that was going to come out, but we wouldn't have been able to even go there if we hadn't spent the time redoing the whole recipe to get all the
Yeah,
stuff.
and even getting into Whole Foods was the big thing. That was probably 7 months at least. It was the better part of most of a year I was in the local specific South Park location at least 3-4 days a week, talking to the same people, talking to different people, make progress with trying to get somebody on board with trying to help us get in. Uh, and then they'd get shipped off somewhere else. And then you'd have to start over with the new employee who was taking their place. And it was just relentless and stubbornness to stay on top of it just to even get into that one store, which happened to then get us into the entire region. And if it hadn't have been for that one store of getting into it, we would have not been able to get into a distributor to get into there.
There's a story
Man,
behind that too. Go ahead, John. Oh, yeah.
that's awesome. Tell me the story.
Well, this stuff all has to happen kind of at the same time, which makes it hard to like give advice to anyone who's doing this, except just
Don't
keep
give up.
going. Don't
Yeah.
give up, because so we have a minority partner he's our marketing officer down in Florida. And he went into a store called Lucky's, which was this hot, new, bougie, like Whole Foods, but for like millennials, and he walked in and said, this store's perfect for us. And the buyer was right there. And she said, okay, drop some sauce off. She loved it and said, well, in order to get into Lucky's, you have to get into UNFI, which is you're talking about a company of us two who don't have any distributors going to one of the biggest. Like you said, this is never going to happen. Sure enough, they put us in the database for UNFI, and 2 weeks later, Lucky's goes out of business, right? However, because they put us in before they went out of business, then we went back to Whole Foods and was trying to get in other stores. Like, well, you have to be in UNFI, and we're like, interesting, because now we are.
Yeah.
And sure enough, we got into all 45 stores in the South because we were a UNFI, because we asked someone at a store that is now no longer in business anymore. That just walking into Lucky's and saying, here's what we want, paid off in a totally different chain of stores. But like that made our company grow really fast, being in the Whole Foods, because the margins are okay, but it's the prestige of the ingredients being vetted. If you're in Whole
Yeah.
Foods, you no longer have to tell people that it's good, that no dyes, no preservatives, gluten, you just.
Yeah, that was almost like a business card.
Yeah, it was like a business card.
That vetted us as far as like, okay, well, if you can get into here, then we don't have to worry about a lot of the stuff we might
Right.
keep you out of here for. That was a calling card to say, okay, they're good. We'll try them out.
Yeah, it's interesting because Whole Foods isn't perfect. Their system, was
And
inefficient. You'd think it's because it's Whole Foods. It's like, awesome, but
that
yeah.
was also the first grocery chain that we really worked with. And it was just as nice as all the people were, the process again was infuriating because you'd make a lot of headway with certain people and then they'd get moved to another store or get promoted. And then you were kind of starting from scratch with somebody else. And then one person would put you in the system and something would happen. All of a sudden they'd say, oh yeah, well, we can't actually move you to these other stores or do what we thought we could do now because it's not available in the system. So there were a lot of things that people thought they could do, but then they couldn't.
Yeah.
And then come to find out, they're, as infuriating as that was, they are actually one of the better places to work with. So I was just like, well, man, I don't want to have to work with anybody else if this is the way it's going to be. But getting into UNFI was also that other catalyst that allowed us to start getting into other places without the worry that people have when they're deciding whether they're going to take a chance on you.
It killed the catch-22 for us, which is every store has. You can't get in unless you have customers, but you can't get customers until you're in. So being in UNFI was huge. Now, UNFI is not a dream either. That's the thing when people ask us advice. It's just patience with human beings trying to run behemoth companies when it's like, and when they don't really, if our company lives or dies, they're like, so you're dealing with people who don't necessarily care. They care, but they don't care for your brand specifically.
It's just like in a store, there's thousands and thousands of other products and you just happen to be one. So,
you can't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah. If somebody doesn't call you back, if somebody doesn't follow through immediately with things that they were saying, like you just got to realize that you're a small part of what they're doing most of the time and you can't take it personally and you can't give up. You have to keep following up. You have to keep being in front of people's faces and hopefully in a good way.
Be friendly if they take a liking to you. So, I have a couple of Whole Food stories that I think are poignant if you want to hear some of those or.
Oh, for sure. Tell me.
Well, I mean, like to Ogre's point about just how persistent you have to be with him. So we start getting emails that the Tennessee Green Hill store is out of sauce, and then the Alabama store is out of sauce. So instead of Whole Foods knowing that, like I call up and the person who was supposed to fill the shelves, he went to Denver because he wanted to ski. Oh man, I moved to Denver, man. Which is fine. People got to do their thing, right? But they were built at that time where hierarchy was kind of like not cool. They're trying to be like a co-op kind of feel. So someone would leave, and then the other person wouldn't have any instructions on what to do. So you can imagine starting over in all the stores, even though you're in UNFI and you're programmed to be in all the stores, but you're actually doing their work for them. And you have to enjoy that instead of get angry, because it happened all the time. But the cool thing about doing that though, is that you get other little stories. Like they opened up an Uptown Charlotte store and the buyer for the North region happened to be there. And we had a huge display, which was like a pyramid. And so she took that up there, and next thing you know, we're in the 45 stores in the North region because she happened to be at the store that we were at, right? And she no longer works there either. So, which is also so strange. Every time we get something, that person gets fired. I don't know why, but because we made sure that we were in those stores, another buyer from the North was there, and then we're in all 45 stores in the North, and then you start getting customers in Brooklyn and New York. I mean, being in the Chelsea store was like that's like the golden
That's
goose.
another kind of calling card.
Yeah.
And a lot of people go to it, and that we would get pictures from random people, people that didn't even know I was doing the sauce that I went to art school with, people that I played, went sailing with during the summers 30 years ago, would all of a sudden either post up a picture on Facebook or text a picture and be like, "Hey, I just saw this. Is this you?" And it was pretty neat to just randomly get a message and somebody so excited to see, Ogre Sauce somewhere. There would be a picture of them next to the big uh, pyramid at the Chelsea store or somewhere else. That was pretty cool.
Man, that is super cool. I had at my wedding, I had my friend made hot sauces, and I handed out hot sauce at my wedding too, which I think is cool. And everybody loved it. And then some people didn't because they're like, "Oh, I don't really like hot sauce," but I was like, "I love hot sauce," and it was good hot sauce. And my buddy made it. But that's super cool. So you guys got into Whole Foods. What did you do after Whole Foods? What was your next store?
Good question.
Or a couple of stores. I'm assuming you're trying
Yeah.
to get
So
into
our
one.
next big step, I would say Fair would be our next one.
That was the next leap. That was the next major step for us of brand recognition and getting out to a wider.
For sure. So we were one of the first, maybe the top first 20 vendors on Fair.com, which now has like a $17 billion valuation. I mean, they killed it. I have to hand it to them. They built a sick website. It's easy to use. And we got on there, and this stores from all over the country were buying our stuff. And then a lot of, it's interesting because a lot of them were doing it because of the name. They're like, Ogre Sauce sounds awesome. We want.
Yeah, people were still, I think Shrek was still kind of.
They didn't. Yeah, they made the Shrek thing
fairly new somewhat at the time. So Ogres and Ogre Sauce, people thought it was a kitschy thing that people thought would catch people's eye. And then our label.
Totally. Yeah. Just the white.
Yeah, we came up with the label, and ever since, that's one of the outside of this is what you should do to tweak your recipe to make it better. Everybody tells us that we've got to change the label, we've got to add more color, we've got to do all kinds of stuff. But when we first made this, there were not the little Boston round bottles. We picked it because it was different, and it kind of had that old medicine RX kind of look. All we would hear about is, "Oh, you got to change the label, you got to add color to it, you got to put a picture on it and all this stuff." But it stands out
like every other sauce on the shelf.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that I still think makes a difference when I see it on the shelf at Harris Teeter.
It looks homemade.
Publix. Yeah, you see it, and that it just stands out. Even though we only have 2 little rows compared to Heinz and everybody else, and that has like 6 feet worth of their label sitting there. Our label will stand out when it's on that shelf. So that's something else that we've stuck with.
Yeah, and I was excited when we were designing it to let the color of his sauce is so great. Like if you just have a white label with the black logo, then all you see is the orange, that beautiful rustic orange with the little specks in it. If we had like a cartoon character in greens and also, you admit it's not about the sauce anymore. So, and that was another, if it wasn't the name, it was the fact that all these independent grocery stores take how their store looks very seriously, and they just love the way our bottle and logo looks on their shelves. It doesn't have the standard, the skinny top with the ridges in there, and then it just fit right into all these to this aesthetic that was really big in all these indie stores. And I think we're in hundreds of them now. And we get photos from our friends who are like backpacking in Maine, and they go into the little town, and lo and behold, there's Ogre Sauce and the meat company there. Like,
being
crazy.
in all these little mom and pop shops all over the place. We got stuff from, we were in Paris.
Yeah, for months.
And people would stop in, and we actually got put into a restaurant. And had a special there, which was pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a restaurant. It was right near Eiffel Tower, and we had the Ogre. It was the Le Ogre chicken sandwich, and it was. I mean,
that sounds freaking phenomenal.
I know. I wish I could have gone. We were hoping that it was only for a limited time, but they went through gallons of the stuff. We were shipping it to France. I don't know how they made any money, but that's for them. But it was just this beautiful sandwich, and we were planning on going over there as a work trip to go taste it, and then of course they changed their menu, but that was fun.
Yeah, but that's where Fair became kind of the UNFI for the mom and pop places. We didn't have to worry about people taking a chance and having to order a pallet or even 10 cases or something like that. People were ordering, I think it was 6 bottles at a time or a case at a time. And it made it more accessible for all these stores without having to go through these big distribution channels. And so, again, just being there when that first got launched, right place, right time, happened to get us a lot more exposure.
And one more note about that, because we come from a digital background or virtual, like we build websites and design back-end servers and stuff, loading our products up and getting all that ready. When they said, hey, you want to be on Fair, I basically could just hit it, but I had all that ready. Like, that's one of the things where your skills you had before you got into the food business really come in handy, because we can add and take away wholesale sites and build sites and landing pages like it's nothing. And for some people, that's really hard to do, or to find someone to do it. So we got lucky there for sure.
And that's awesome. I mean, the main website, your website looks beautiful, and I encourage everybody to go look at it. But
Thanks.
For like having that front end and that back end and already having that skill probably set you guys up so well. And as you know, like online, your margins are way better. You can reach way more many people than any kind of brick and mortar could ever. So.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, we're trying.
So now it's just getting people to go there.
Yeah. So we've also found out that you got to have a balance though, because you can sell thousands of bottles online, and a brick and mortar store can order 1,000 bottles in one order. So
yeah, so you love those.
You love the. So you just got to find you got to find that balance. I mean, you can never go big enough online. But
are you guys on Amazon?
That is unfortunately a necessity, and that has its own pitfalls, but the availability, I get people all the time calling me up and asking me like, oh, I'm down at the beach and I forgot to get sauce. And I'm like, well, go to Amazon. It'll be there tomorrow morning. You put in the address you are, and depending on where it is, they ship that stuff around and you can get it next day. And so the availability, the convenience of being able to get it, you have to have a presence there.
And now that Amazon bought Whole Foods, they just, if someone's buying it on Amazon and they have a Whole Foods in their city, the listing on the page is the whole Whole Foods listing for $7.99. And and when they buy it, some person runs to the shelf of the store and takes it off the
delivers in 2 hours if you order in 15 minutes.
Like that. We could never do that on our own. Never do that on our own. The only problem there is, everything causes other issues. Then you'll get a call saying, you're no longer on the shelf in this Whole Foods because everyone on Amazon bought it. And then you have the person at the store restocks the shelf, blah. I don't want to we're not complaining. I'm just saying you can see
hopes that they realize that they're out.
Right. Before we get, if we're getting an email. And if we're getting an email, it's been out for weeks, probably,
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
we're the
and
last one. Yeah.
that just happened recently after a New York Times article, where the link from the New York Times article went to the Amazon page
Oh my God.
for Ogre Sauce,
Yeah.
not to our Amazon page. That happened to, it got a lot of exposure, and a lot of people bought a lot of Ogre Sauce for that month when that article came out. But it pulled from the shelves in Whole Foods. So then there was just a blank space at Whole Foods, and you're one of 100,000 products in a grocery store, and you can't expect that somebody's actually watching it. You would think with how all their automation, but we would consistently get messages about, like, are you being carried here? It's out. It's not. It's there.
People
And
freaking out.
because they needed to make another order, and they needed to distribute more to that specific store where it was being pulled from.
And there's
Man, that's crazy.
a good story with that New York Times article too, if you're interested, because that's another, that would be another thing I would tell people, is that you got to, if you can just stay in business long enough, cool stuff does happen, right? So they were doing an article on the best barbecue, I think it was Texas style barbecue sauces.
It was I can't remember what
I
the
think it was
moniker was, but
but it wasn't Carolina.
Wasn't really
sauce.
what we would have thought we would have been in,
Right, we would have never
category wise.
Right, if they asked us, we said we wouldn't. That's not even our category. Lo and behold, because we're in a lot of stores up north, one of the people who works at Wirecutter, which is the New York Times food section, is a huge Ogre Sauce fan, and I hope we're not supposed to. They won't tell us who it is because they don't want to have any kind of weirdness with, like, we have a mole or anything, so we don't even know who it is. Went up to them and says, you have to put this in your trials and stuff. They loved it. And they even wrote in they didn't pick us as the best because the category wasn't our category, but the honorable mention, the article they wrote was great. It was so, I love how, like, guerrilla marketing it was. The person who wrote it, I talked to her. She was like, we weren't even supposed to have this sauce, but one of our employees, but that's like street cred, right?
Yeah, we didn't even know about it.
We didn't even know about it. Yeah, a friend of mine in Asheville, North Carolina, texted my other friend in Nashville, Tennessee, and said, have you seen this? And I was like, oh my God. And like the day later, Amazon was sold out. Hundreds of bottles, which is exciting until you run into the problems we were just discussing. Then you're like, oh, it takes Amazon a month and a half to restock. I mean, then the Whole Food sales were longer than that. So we're still feeling the effects of that, though. I mean, the orders aren't as stiff, but we got a lot of exposure out of that. And then All Recipes said we were with the top 6 barbecue sauce in the country to buy, which was huge. That's got to be 4 years ago, and we still get stores based on that, and that was written 4 years ago. So, you just got to stay in business to have cool stuff happen, because it's not all bad. I hope we're not making it sound like it's been all bad. It's been great. It's been fun.
Oh, it sounds like it's been great. No, I mean, you guys have been getting good exposure, and really the sauce is what's carrying it. It's not the branding. Some companies just have a really good marketing and really good branding, and they sell the sauce, and then it's all right. And then when they try something like you guys were like, wow, the sauce is really good. And I actually do love the branding. It's very homemade. It's very, like a potion kind of bottle. I think it goes with the vibe. What kind of strategies have you guys let me re-say that. What kind of strategies have you guys implemented to be able to, like, move the needle specifically as it comes to revenue?
Let's see. I do have an answer. I'm just formulating it.
Good.
One of the main strategies we said at the beginning was you got to price it right. So it's scary making your sauce a little more expensive, but you got to, I mean, and once you taste Ogre Sauce, it's just better than like the $1.99 Sweet Baby Ray's or KC Master Beast. So if you price it high enough, that way you can give people discounts to get into their stores, but you're still making money at it. That was definitely
was not being afraid to
come in,
believe in what it's worth, because the margins are so small. It seems like everybody else is making money except for you, because you have to pay everybody from distribution to shelf space in certain instances and stuff. And it's just nickel and diming until all of a sudden you're not making any money. And so you have to be willing to.
And we've raised our
price. Be a premium.
Yeah. Once we found out we weren't making any money, we raised the price like 3 times. I mean, that's
We just didn't have a choice. And then
yeah.
with, especially the last couple of years with prices going up on ingredients and everything as well, you can eat it for so long, and then you have to just say, this is what it costs now.
Yeah. What kind of feedback have you guys heard every time you raise the prices? The loyal people keep buying? Are you able to track any
I think a
data?
lot of people
Yeah.
I think a lot of people had been, so that I think they kind of expected it, and then I think with certain products was just a, yeah, well, this is what it's going to be.
And I haven't had time to look at the data on every price increase because we're just chasing orders. Like, I mean, it's funny
Which
because
is phenomenal. Great problem to
yeah,
have.
so the distributors, I'm always, I don't know, it's maybe something about me, but I'm always nervous to be like, hey, we got to raise this price $1, and they're like, okay, like they don't care at all, and you go to the store and there it is, the price, and it's just we just kept trucking. I mean, it makes you go, shoot, I should have raised it $5. Like you don't know, you're always playing that game. But the problem with all that is that price changes take 3 months to actually hit the ground, so you can't. It's not something you can just mess around with. I mean, you can on your own website, but I mean, they pay attention though, because I've lowered the price on the website, and then the stores will call up and go, "You can't have it at that price." I had to learn that. Your website's, at least what I've been told by our stores, needs to be the highest price you can get it, so you don't eat into your store sales, which is a whole nother
Yeah.
balancing act.
Yeah, yeah, and it brings you more profit online anyway, which is always good.
So the pricing was definitely an implement. Other thing, this is might be kind of backwards, but and you remember we're still working on the marketing push that's going to make us a household name, right? But one thing we didn't do was do it wrong. Like you didn't, it's like what do we call that? Like this is the year of nothing, right? Because we're very concerned with our marketing. I love where we are positioned, but you got to be real careful what you're going to go to the world with. Like,
And yeah, you don't want to overshoot, and come out of the gate too quick or too fast. And with us doing this on our own, that has been a necessity, so that we can maintain what we're doing, because we don't have the employees and the staff to help with some of these other things. Is that's forced us to go a little bit slower
yes,
in a lot of what we're doing, to make a mistake trying to get too big too quick. And that may have also helped us stay, while we're still in business.
Yeah.
So we haven't
I got
shot our wad, so to
yeah.
speak.
I got a great story about that too, right? So Walmart called, of course, right? Because we pitched it to Walmart. They wanted us, and their purchase order it's just $300,000 worth of sauce, right? It sounds like, oh, no brainer. Well, this could be advice for people that might help. I don't know, but the problem with Walmart is that it's 300,000, but you have to drop your margin down to like 10%. So that's a big purchase order, but then they put it on the store at $5.99. It undercuts all the work you've done for 5 years in the independent stores online. And then they go, by the way, you got to drop your price to $4.99 or we're not going to reorder. And you're like, so you're out of business because you don't have any more customers because they cut everyone out. And then they tell you what, that's no cut on Walmart. Oh gosh, I hope it doesn't. No, I'm just saying that's their business model. That's just the way they do it, right?
That's
Trying to go to anywhere
right.
that big, and yeah, it's a huge order, and all of a sudden you're in every state and every Walmart possibly.
Well, and there's two things there too. I'd like to be proud of that. It took cojones not to take that. But the other thing is that you have to be careful whether you want your brand in Walmart. That's no cut on Walmart. It's just we've built this underground sauce that if we got into Walmart, I mean, we would be, we'd be getting emails from our fans going, "What are you doing?" You go ahead.
Well, and that's where we got where Fair has also been a huge help for that, is because a lot of these mom and pop stores are places that when you go into these kitschier markets and small shops, most of the people shopping in those are not picking things up and looking at the price tag and putting it back down. They're in there to look for neat new things, or or more premium products, or things that stand out. And it's not like being in a giant box store where people are a lot of times shopping price wise as opposed to just, product. And that I think has helped because we're in almost every state, I think, to
Yeah.
be fair,
Now in Alaska.
in some one little shop in one little town somewhere, maybe
Yep.
having that recognition and seeing it in other places and not having to drop it down to $3.99.
I love that. And so I see you guys both have like a digital background, right? Maybe a little bit of programming and whatnot. What kind of other education or skills have you had to learn now that you guys are, growing this business?
Like all of it.
Yeah.
I mean, the transition from a keyboard to like men in trucks driving something that's real around it's just a whole nother universe as far as communication, efficiency. I mean, I was the type of coder where if a site was due tomorrow, I'd stay up all night and drink coffee and get it done and it'd be awesome. If you're doing something in this business, you need to start it 3 months ahead of time to get it actually where you need it to go. And that was, to me personally, that was the hardest part. I'm like, why is this taking so long? Like,
Yeah.
why can't you just do it?
Yep.
Like, and I had to really change that part of me, at least how I worked, because you just have to wait. And speaking of waiting, one of the things we didn't do was quit our day jobs, right?
Yeah.
So we would, I mean, the whole goal is to grow 15 to 20% a year to where hopefully we're not, when we're, we're
Yeah.
60, we're
It's
doing
our
this.
401k.
It's our 401k, right? Versus like taking a Walmart thing, shooting straight up and then being out of business and having owe a bunch of money and go bankrupt. Um, but that you need to have an income just to handle the waiting part on all these other team members. I don't know if it was for you, but that for me, that was the hardest part for sure. But I had to learn all that stuff on the fly because everything I did was on a computer. I had no education. I was a history major at Carolina, go Heels. But, obviously not using the history major. I mean, I've read a lot of books, but it doesn't, it did not teach you how to tell John in the warehouse at a co-packing thing, no, you need 45 cases, not 43 cases. It's just, so I'm trying to paint a picture of how hard it was to transition.
That and
Yeah.
the people skills, like, so Mike was a history major. I actually went to art school and did illustration and graphic design. And then I painted portraits and did web design for 10 years when I got out. Then I got married and then I needed health insurance and a steady paycheck. And so I actually started working for Apple. I was in Apple retail. I taught classes and I did the one-to-one memberships where people would come in and we teach them how to use their computers, and the people skills that I learned there and the customer experience focus that I learned from that and now I'm an Apple consultant for an IT firm as well. Those skills of being able to talk with anybody from the partner or the owner of a company down to the guy opening up the door at the warehouse, and just knowing how important everybody is and treating them that way makes a big difference when you're talking to people, whether it's just somebody cold calling you about trying to, advertise somewhere, whether you're having to talk to somebody about trying to get into something else, and just treating everybody with the respect that they deserve. And it's hard, and especially when all the frustrating thing and that whole patience of having to wait for stuff. It really is like the old school picture loading in
Yeah.
on AOL where you had to wait for the picture to drop in line by line.
Yeah.
Like you have to have that patience of knowing that, okay, if I click this, it's not going to be immediate. And I think that's where this day and age, everybody expects things to be instant. And it's just, there's so much involved and so many people and so many steps that things have to go through that you have to plan, be aware of, and have the patience for things to work out.
What kind of sources did you guys use? Because obviously you had to. What did you guys look at? Like YouTube videos? Did you have a mentor to help you figure out some of this stuff, or was it literally just trial and error? Like, oh, I think this is kind of the next thing to do in this step. Because I don't think there's a class out there on how to get into Whole Foods.
There's not. And a lot of that was just stubbornness. And, like I said, was in that store daily for months on end for the better part of a year, just trying to get into that one store, which at the time you could do. I don't even think they do
Now
store
you
by
can't do
store.
that.
The
Yeah.
manager can okay you to be in here, local product kind of thing. But and it's kind of a mix because
Well,
it was just falling into it and
yeah.
then meeting somebody. And when you have a rapport with people, they're willing to help you out. And
That's what I was gonna say.
more of
Yeah.
the time, people really want to help you for the most part. And we've been fortunate enough for the right people at the right time to kind of help us when they
Yeah.
saw us either doing something
And when
wrong or just giving us the advice like, hey, just so you know, you need to go do this, or you got to talk to this person
Yeah.
first, or and the co-packer was
super helpful.
super, yeah. From I mean, we really had no idea what we were
Yeah.
doing at all, and just getting things together, and then like they were
Yeah,
a
I
huge
got more.
help.
I got a couple. As he's speaking, I just start. I mean, you've seen me smiles because I just have so many more stories to tell you about how terrible we were at it. I don't. Maybe people need to hear that stuff. Like I
No,
would get
no,
this.
yes. People need to hear it.
So yeah. So, but I also had a couple friends who own restaurants that helped me understand, the food part, like how it has to be sent to people and stuff. But so I would get the cases from the co-packer and then just put a label on them and mail them. And of course, they would show up busted. Like I remember our first store in Charleston was the Bull Street Market. I don't even think it's there anymore. And I sent it to her, and she just sent me a picture of a bag of orange goo and broken glass. And I'm like, "What's the problem?" Oh yeah, you need to put it in another box with peanuts all around it. Which of course we've switched from peanuts because those are. I see little stuff like that. People hate peanuts. That can kill your orders if the people you're sending it to don't want peanuts all over their warehouse floor. So he switched to bubble wrap or recycled cardboard. But yeah, so I was shipping just raw cases in the mail. Now, to some people, be like, "Wow, that's stupid." I'm like, "Yeah, it just I didn't."
When you don't know, you don't
Right,
know.
when you don't know,
And
and you think UPS they're good guys, right? They're not going to throw our stuff around. I mean, that's the level we entered this at. Didn't even know that UPS breaks stuff. Like so if we can get to our level with that terrible level of knowledge on even how to ship things, you just got to
that's
stick
right.
with
You
it.
can be completely incompetent and make it.
Yes. Now we're not. Well, we're probably on certain things, but like the stories about like him being relentless in a store. People see that, and then they help you, and then then you get on a mailing list that says this is how you do that. Or sometimes you just gotta take that first push, like that ignorant push into a store and just be like a greasy wheel. Then you start to get knowledge from people who are like, "Why are you doing that? You need to do this." So yeah, I mean,
And then it
right,
becomes chance favors
right,
the prepared minded. So
yeah,
if you're ready for it
yeah.
and you happen to meet that one person, like you got to try and always be ready, and whether you know what you're doing or not,
Don't tell them that though.
um,
You're always
is
ready.
yeah,
Yeah, you learn.
it's
I mean, if someone says,
figure it
"Hey,
out.
yeah," you figure it out. You say yes, and then you figure it out, because otherwise you'll just get passed. But again, I still think our coding abilities at the beginning were a huge help because the website goes up and it works. You know what I'm saying? Like I already knew how to do e-commerce.
Yeah, and that
You
was
know,
a huge deal for
just
not only having something that looks
yeah,
good, but that functions.
yeah,
Right.
So
Right.
and
No, that is
it
huge.
actually worked.
yeah. And this was 10 years ago. I mean, Shopify was
Yeah.
terrible then. It was like you wouldn't even use. I was building that stuff from scratch.
If he, if he hadn't been able to do that, the
Yeah,
cost of having
to hire
a
that out.
purchased shopping cart
Yeah,
that was customized at that time would have broken us.
yeah.
We couldn't afford it, so
Like,
that was
they wouldn't have been, Ogre Sauce
valuable
wouldn't
to
able to be afford me to build the website.
yeah.
There's no way. Just, of course, you volunteer your time. That's the other thing. All your money goes into the company. We don't take any money out yet. Yeah. But that's a whole nother story. And another funny story about is Ogre, he was working at the Apple store, right? At the huge mall down here. It was so funny to see him down in the parking deck, opening up the trunk of his car and
Oh yeah,
selling
selling.
Ogre Sauce out of the trunk of his car with an Apple. Like, Steve, that's back when Steve Jobs was alive, bro. I don't know. He's probably like, you got to take that shirt off. You can.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was,
But yeah, now
yeah,
people would come up
yeah.
and be like, "Hey, I need to get some sauce," and I'm like, I got a break in 45 minutes." And so at lunch or when they would come by and say, go shopping, and I'll call you when I'm down at the car, and I was selling it out of the back of the car.
It was awesome. And
That's
one,
good.
and
You
you
have people
could,
coming to the Apple store and you're like, hey, I got some good stuff down, in
yeah,
my
that's
That's right,
exactly
in
yeah.
my
that's what it was
trunk.
like. And kudos to Ogre on this one too, because I would go to the Apple store because I hate, I admit it, I'm a fanboy, but there would be a line out the door for people just just to hang out with Ogre. It was impressive. People, he just learned
Got
how
the
to
people
treat
skills.
people, and that helps. And so if you go to like these festivals, right, and you imagine thousands of people walking by going, "What is this? What does it taste like?" If you added more honey, it'd be better. Can you imagine that all day long? And he just knows how to. He just knows how to handle it. I'm like, it's great, definitely, and it's probably from people that
Does
Apple.
it have mustard in it?
Yeah, does it have mustard in it? It's like, yes, it has mustard in it. But I'm sure it helps because at the Apple store when he was helping people going, mine doesn't work, and he just like turns it on. People who just don't know. He could handle the smartest to the not so smart people, no problem. That was super handy as far as when we got started. But everything else was learned on the fly. And I never, I just always assumed that I could learn how to do it in time to make the deal. Right. So you're not lying when you say tell someone you're ready, but you are you just need to be about 80% ready. The other 20% comes because you just want to make it happen. You'll just do what it takes. You'll call the right people. We had a lot. I mean, like we had a great office with a warehouse in it with a friend of ours who really helped us out having space, just
That made a
space
big
to ship
difference.
stuff in and out. That made a big difference. Little
And it
thing.
wasn't an hour away to get to it,
Yeah.
so that was something we could do
Yeah.
in the middle of the day, being able to get over to ship something
Yeah.
or do something.
Little stuff like that. Like we had a FedEx rep. She was amazing on teaching us how to ship a gallon versus a bottle versus, and get all the shipping stuff right on the internet for us. Now she no longer works there anymore, but those kind of people along the way really help because if you get a bad one of those, it can really set you back months. That's about it for education. We're still learning every day. I mean,
But yeah.
yeah,
Well, you said you like reading books. Do you have any business books that you like to read, or you get all your
do you?
skills from real life?
Real life. I tried to keep my reading to like nonfiction and like historical because reading is like a pleasure, because you're so busy. It's like a
There's
vacation. The last thing I'm going to do on my hour-long vacation on a Wednesday is read more business books. That's me. That's a personal thing. Like
Yeah, there's
yeah,
I
yeah,
can't think of the name of
oh,
it
yeah.
right now, but there's one that I'm gonna text somebody real quick to see if they can give me the name of it. I found extremely helpful, so I'm gonna see if I can get that. I just cannot think of the name.
Oh, I did read one book. It's called The E-Myth. Have you read
Oh
that book?
yes, E-Myth. I love
I
that. Yeah.
did read that one because actually that book was, I take that back. I read this book was super important because it teaches you the three types of people, right? The dreamer, the manager, and the worker, right?
Right. Yeah.
And
Yes.
that was mind blowing to me because I'm absolutely the manager, right? And you try to do everything and you can't. He's the dreamer and the worker, but that's why we make a good team, right?
Yeah, we've had a lot of
Yeah.
the yin and
Yeah.
yang, and he gets real excited about stuff way too quickly, which sometimes forces me maybe to look at also I think from a design background, I'm always looking at what's not right. What's wrong with this picture, and how can I make it better? And so when things come about that seem too good to be true, I'm more looking at, okay, what's wrong with this, and why might this not work, compared to it's a great opportunity, let's go. So that
I
has
can't.
also made a big difference. It keeps us more even keel, for almost everything, really.
Yeah, he's like, I mean, I did a couple things on my own, and now I run everything by him. Because, I mean, sometimes they work, but sometimes they don't. But it's good to have someone who has the eye of, how can this be improved, or how you don't. It's not all rosy all the time, and it's just it's a perfect team. But that book definitely changed how I viewed even dealing with other people in their businesses. What role is this, a worker, a manager, or a dreamer, right? Um, so
Yeah, no, E-Myth was huge for me too and all my businesses. And there was also like the organization chart of
yeah,
your every single you as a solopreneur is every single position in a corporate company, whether or not that's like a full-time job or not, you are every single person until you like I signed like a little contract next to that name of okay, I'm the director of sales, I'm the graphic designer, I'm
yeah,
also the stalker, I'm also the salesman, the financial advisor, like, for yourself, you're not like the CEO. I hate when people like, it's like, whatever, but that's just a pet peeve of mine. I have like my friends who are like, I'm the CEO of my window cleaning company. I'm like, you know, That's true, I guess, but that's a little weird to
Yeah.
say, but
But yeah, when you're also the one that's squeegeeing the
Yeah,
window, whether you're
yeah.
the CEO or not.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's just yeah, like, when corporate, you can call yourself CEO if you have a couple people. Even then, though, like, 7 people, like, we have, like, a team of, like, 8, and our CEO would not I wouldn't call him a CEO, he's just Josh that runs it, you
yeah.
know? Runs it, then
I'm the CEO of Ogre Sauce, and I love that because it's like he's the president. I'm the CEO.
yeah,
We do have
president,
a
that
chief mark.
sounds
Yeah,
president
we have
sounds
a chief
better.
marketing officer in Florida, and he does marketing, but it's hilarious to think that that's all he does, or that's all we do. I mean, because we would do beer fests, and you have the CEO and the president in the
Yeah,
tent,
that sounds fun.
but of course the titles don't mean anything when you're the one hawking the song.
Yeah.
At a music concert or something. Um, it's funny.
No,
Yeah,
that's
I'm the COO of Ogre Sauce selling out of the trunk of my car while I'm working
Yeah,
somewhere else.
yeah.
that's
Doesn't
where
mean
it
a whole
all
lot.
starts, yeah.
That's right.
That's awesome.
But that back to the books, by the way, there's a book called The Go Giver. It's really short. I was giving it to it in paperback. I don't even know if it's big enough to be hardback, but it is more of a relationship and mentoring, but it really has a good philosophy that I appreciate from just dealing with a lot of people and dealing with people that are extremely high up and very successful to just somebody you met on walking down the road in the park that you don't even know what they do, and it's again gets back to really just how to treat people and make relationships that I've found. I just always refer to that, and it was one of my bosses that gave that to me when I was struggling at one point, and it made me remember a lot of my skills and kind of keep them in the forefront of how I deal with everything.
I love that.
And then
Mhm.
there's another one that I believe, if I remember correctly, I think it's called Prompt to Profit. That's pretty good as well. I don't have can't remember a whole lot about that one off the top of my head at this point. I need to reread that one, but that was another one that I think made an impact on me.
Man, that's awesome. And so would you say, like, the people to people skills has probably been the most beneficial skill of you guys in this company so far?
For what I've dealt with, yeah, I think Mike does a lot of back end work where he's not necessarily dealing with people that's
He's more
that's been
customer
huge.
oriented, like versus yeah.
But I think as far as making certain deals and promoting your product, yes, the people skills are
Well,
huge.
just to back him up on there, like people want to do things for you when you're just nice. I mean, when you're the ogre, like they want to help. They want to help you because he treats he
And
knows how to treat
and that
people.
doesn't mean I'm nice all the time.
No, he's not nice to me.
That you don't get the nickname ogre from
Yeah,
being nice all the time to begin with.
yeah,
But
yeah.
in general, I like to think that I am.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, they love the ogre.
but it's a
He's like a another.
perception.
Yeah, I don't mean to keep going back to the Apple store, but man, it looked like he did 50% of the business in that store. He's like a rock star.
I
Yeah,
love
that definitely
That's some good
helps.
hype.
And I guess my people skills that certainly helped on the back end too because I can
Definitely
when I'm dealing with the people on the ground, right, not the customer facing, you had like you got to I can empathize with what they're
a lot
doing.
of logistics
Yeah, logistics, like because I come
issues.
from I'm a coder background, so I understand where they're coming from, and that really helps them. And if you get them on your side, that really helps your business because they kind of bump you up in the status.
Yeah, are willing to
You
work
know,
with you when the labels
right?
aren't going to arrive until the
Yes.
following day, but they are supposed to do it. Then
Yeah.
they're more willing to help you scheduling wise, get things moved around to make things work.
And if they make a
Um,
mistake, they fix it faster than they would someone else because you're their boy. So you're friends, you're almost
yep.
friends with them. Like that actually, yeah, I would say people skills is a huge part of that, our success.
What's the biggest thing that you guys have done as a company?
That's Tijuana Flats. It's gotta be, right?
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, do you mean like deal wise? Or
Anything, what would you say is the biggest thing you guys have done?
oh yeah, Tijuana Flats is the biggest deal.
Getting in all the Tijuana Flats?
Yeah, and I love that story too because
Yeah,
it's
that was
just
random
brute
as well.
force. So Chris
Like,
said,
again, yeah,
yeah, so yeah,
right place, right time,
exactly.
the
And
right
then the guy got
person.
fired, right?
And the guy, yeah, well, I would love to use his
Eventually.
name. Yeah, because he probably did this stuff. I don't know. I don't want to use his name because he's a buddy of, he was a buddy, but Chris would just walked into the headquarters in Florida of Tijuana Flats and told the receptionist, "Well, I have this awesome barbecue sauce. I'm part owner and I want it in all the stores." And she just said, "Well, okay, he's the national buyer's right here. Do you want to just drop it off to him?" He went in there, shook his hand, dropped the sauce off. And the guy called back in 2 days, said, "This sauce is awesome." And here's the twist. He said, "But it needs to be hotter." And this is important too, because we
Yeah.
weren't now because of that meeting, not only did we get in all the hot bars in Tijuana Flats, which is thousands of gallons a year, it forced us to make another SKU, like the hotter version.
Which was actually closer to we dumbed down. That was another thing. We had to dumb down the sauce initially when we were making it because in
It's too
general,
hot, right?
people thought it was too spicy. I would still never say hot. The Tijuana Flats wanted the word hot on the label, but that gave us the ability to make more of the original sauce, and then having to go through figuring out how to make it hot without changing the current flavor was another huge thing, which
6
is
more
where
hours it
we ended up with. I mean, I tried everything, all kinds of peppers, and then we finally ended up on the Carolina Reaper because it gave you the heat without changing the flavor profile. Everything else tasted great and it might work, but then, the 3 Mexican chili would tasted awesome, but then after 3 weeks, it changed
Yeah.
and the flavor was different. And so there's all kinds of issues with that, but we finally got to actually make Ogre Sauce hot, which was what my grandmother's recipe really was more like. It's that is another thing we have to tell people all the time.
No.
It's not hot sauce. This is just the hot version of regular ogre sauce.
Yeah.
So it's spicy, but it's not like,
Yeah.
you know, it's not a hot sauce.
Yeah, and yeah, so that person, he was fired after I don't wanna say fired, I don't know how, but he was no longer working there 2 weeks after that. So, I don't even know if you can do that anymore. I'm not definitely not telling people to go barge in to the headquarters of
But it's kind of like
but,
the
but
singer that showed up at a record label back in the day
right.
and just happened to get through the secretary to the right person and that right person heard them and you can't, it just doesn't happen and you
Yeah.
can't do it that way, but
Yeah.
somehow it worked.
So that definitely our biggest deal because not only did it launch hot and we actually had a customer for it. So like launching a new flavor is extremely expensive. Oh my God. You start over. It's like another business almost. So to already have a customer for it took the cost down for us. That was
Yep.
huge.
And that allowed us to then put it into the supermarkets as
Right.
well.
Put it in the bottle. Yeah.
And then when people taste I think when people taste the hotter version, like
They like it.
when they see the word hot, they cower from it a little bit. But anybody who's ever bought it, that will call me and they're like, "Hey, do you have any hot?" Because if there's not hot available and certain stores only have the regular.
Right.
And I'll get calls like, "Why don't they have hot? I only want the
I'm
hot."
like, oh, I'm sorry. Angry.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So, but the key thing there though is like, yes, it was bold to walk in there and do it, and our boy Chris is like, he's one of those. He's a bulldog, man. You want people like that on your team? Oh my
Yep.
God, because I would never do that. I wouldn't say never, but it's just not in my personality to just walk in somewhere with a sauce in your hand,
And
going, "Put this in your store." Like he has a knack for that stuff. But again, it was the fact that they loved the sauce in the end that they chose it. Because if it would have been crap, he would have never got a call back. But I mean, how many times have you done something? You're pitching something and you get ghosted, right? They actually called back because they loved the sauce so much, and it wasn't even hot enough for them. They still loved it. And now the rest is history.
a buddy of mine had a hot dog joint here called JJ Red Hots. That he was on diners, dives, and drive-ins, and he was great spot. People loved it. Very popular. And he just wanted to help out, and he loved ogre sauce as well, and he would start carrying it, but he was going through so much of it, he finally just had to stop
Yeah.
pulling it in because he was just buying it for everybody. And when he stopped doing it, we'd be playing golf, and he'd be like, what in the fuck do you put in that? What the hell do you put in it if you need to change that up?
That was his
But
words.
that was, yeah. And he was like, people come in every day and it's like, where's the damn ogre sauce?
Yeah, mad.
Because he didn't have it. And then so he would eventually, every once in a while, he'd call up and get a gallon or two and just be like, God, like people really, really dug the sauce.
That's
so
happening.
that was pretty cool too.
That's happened in a couple stores where they would have it as a condiment. That's the other great thing is the sauce, the versatility of the sauce, right? So it can just be a condiment next to, you know, Texas Pete or whatever. He had to stop buying it. He had to stop buying it because people would come in with their own canisters, a condiment store, and then like run out. And like he's yelling at them, going, "I sell it right here," and they're like, "But it's free," you know, that kind of. It's just running out the door. So he had to stop by. I mean,
he started putting them in little containers and charging 25 cents with the sandwich or whatever to do it. So he found a way to not lose money on it.
I mean, that's good problems to have. But of course, we lost the sales it just gets, they were going through so much of it, they couldn't afford. It was like overhead.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah.
So
you just drown it, you know, and then, then he's having to pay for that on top of his margins for the sandwiches, I'm sure.
Yeah, right. And and he said, it's just too good. I mean, whatever that you have in there, the people just want it so much. And that's the thing is everything's tied to everything else, right? So you get into Tijuana Flats, and they switched their distributor US Foods, and all of a sudden now we're in US Foods all over the country. Now we're available all over the country in US Foods. So it's like all just from walking into the headquarters like a bulldog and saying, "I have something you want." Now, I mean, it leads to so many other things. Again, I can't speak to that working for everybody, but
and everything else has to be in place at that same time.
Yeah, so we had
again, when that infrastructure that opportunity presents itself, are you ready for it?
100%.
Can you get to the next level?
Yeah. Yep. What's the biggest year you guys have done so far?
It's supposed to be this year.
What are your projections for this year?
We're projecting 200 this year. 200K. Nice. And it's funny because, you know, we still, back to the beginning, we still haven't created our push yet to get to the next, you know what I'm saying? This is all just the flavor of the sauce, people like us, and word of mouth. So, you know, and when you're in business long enough, you can feel when you're on a precipice of something. And like even doing this podcast, you know, you don't know why you're doing something. You don't know who's going to hear something, but it definitely feels like we're going to take a quantum leap either this year or next year. I mean, there's been
after I had the conversation with you, I was like, I need to get a hold of the sauce because I saw what you guys were doing, and that's why I called you at the beginning. And I was like, oh, we got to have these guys on. They got, you know, a great idea, and they're starting off. And I couldn't find it in my Publix, and I was like, no, babe, hold on, I'll be home in a second. I'm looking for this thing. And I guess I'll just have to end up ordering some. But I was trying to find some when I was grocery shopping. But yeah, people, you make it sound super like, you know, magical almost. So. And more stuff
it's one of those things. It's our job. And that's also kind of one other thing. Like people get excited, you know, when you find something that nobody else knows about, and you're kind of at that ground level with it. Like I get people all the time that are, you know, they'll see the logo on my shirt, or somehow somebody's like, "Wait a minute, you're Ogre Sauce," and then like they know about it, and they get so excited about, you know, a product that they feel like they're invested in, I think, because it's kind of like you know, not that many people know about it. But like in Publix, for instance, we're not on the shelf. We're not actually on the planogram because we're with the local distributor. We're that table right before the checkout. So people walk right past it. Yeah, I don't know what they call those,
like
but
crap
it's,
and
it's
like a little key. It's like a little kiosk thing.
Oh yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. They switch out what's on there.
Yeah. And they sell.
So we'll usually be like on an end cap or on the end of some of the frozen places in the meat area, or we're up by checkout on those individual tables.
Where are you located, John?
I'm in Stuart, Florida, and I have a Tijuana Flats down the street, and I remember saying to my wife, I was like, "We got to go to Tijuana Flats," and then. We ended up doing it.
Those were the little bottles.
Yeah.
Those were the 8-ounce bottles. You'd have to buy like 20 of those.
Yeah, but it should be on the hot bar there if you don't.
Yeah.
I don't mean to jump around, but there was one more thing I forgot to tell you about when we first got started. That was huge for us. we did a Kickstarter campaign.
Yeah.
And I can't believe I forgot about that because that's one of the skills. Like Chris, the CMA, like he knows how to do that stuff, right? Imagine you're just, maybe like a wife and a husband trying to do this, and you don't know anything about computers. To have someone on board that can just start a Kickstarter campaign, and that thing was crazy. Like
Yeah.
$52,000 made for a barbecue sauce it was wild. We still have customers coming in saying, I've been ordering you since Kickstarter. And that's the first thing we did. But that was huge for us. I mean,
Yep. I remember doing a time lapse of
oh my God.
packing all that stuff up, and you could watch the.
Yeah. I mean, we probably sold 2,500 bottles on that thing. It was crazy. It made us realize that,
that shipping costs money.
yes, that shipping, that $52,000 was gone really fast, but it's just, we have the sauce is in a way that just made customers for life. I mean,
Yep.
we still have people who, that's how they found us, was on Kickstarter 10 years ago or whatever. So if you do want to start fast, I guess this would be in the advice column for someone new. Kickstarter is the bomb. We went up to their headquarters. That's a funny story because Chris and I went to go see a Radiohead show in New York. Like, this is 5 years after the Kickstarter campaign. And we went and knocked on the door, and we had our gear on, right? And the guy opened the door and he goes, Ogre Sauce. And we went in there, and everyone in there knew who we were. And it was like 5 years ago when we had to, because it was just crazy. Because usually they're doing, and I think I told you this, John, they do like new inventions, like a new pocket knife or a new set of headphones or something like that. So to have that kind of impact with just barbecue sauce they just didn't think it was going to work. And next thing we're like one of the biggest ones on it. That was huge. So if you want to edit that back to the beginning, I don't know. It was instrumental.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any other stories? Any other advice you would want to give?
I got tons of stories, man.
I know you guys are funny. You got all the stories.
I don't know.
What's
funny
the
'cause
funniest story? Give me a really good funny one.
sometimes stories are advice.
Yeah. Well, with all the road rage that you hear about and see, I don't know if you've ever actually seen it happening while you're driving anywhere, but I have plenty. I had a guy in the car in front of me, or actually he pulled in front of me, and it freaked me out because I thought he was mad at me for something. I thought I cut him off or something, but like he pulled in front of me right before we were coming up to this light, and he got out of his car and started coming back. Well, I'm like 290 pounds. I'm a big dude. And I was ready to step out. Like, come on, bring it. And he came out, and he was so excited because he had seen the sign on the side of my car. And he came out, and he just wanted to tell me how much he loved Ogre Sauce. And I gave him, I had one of the little 8-ounce bottles that they sell at Tijuana Flats and a koozie. And I gave it to him, and he was so happy. He even, he saw my car again later and left a note on it and just said how thankful he was that I gave him that bottle of sauce, and it was great meeting me and stuff, and just random in the middle of it. Like I was ready to, yeah. And I can corroborate that because that's actually happened to me too. We were at a stoplight, and this guy got out of his car and is coming back to me, and I had my family in the car. I'm like, roll him up. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. And he's just to say how much he loved. We have a sticker on our car, just how much they love it. And just wanted to meet the person who started it. I guess it was great. It's crazy. By the way,
I don't think many people are doing that for companies to road rage, pull you off the side of the road dangerously like that to say hello,
And that kind of speaks to, I don't know if this would help anyone, but we also make sure our margins are high enough to put stuff when people are spending $21 on sauce with shipping, that's a lot. You got to, like we throw in a koozie, every single one, a story card with recipes on it, a sticker. Stickers are huge, bro. People love stickers. Kids love stickers. And sometimes we randomly put in free bottles of sauce because if you're ordering it from rural Oregon, which we have tons of fans in Oregon, don't ask, it's the coolest thing. The shipping's a lot, so you want to throw in make it worse. So you throw in a bottle every now and then, and little stuff like that just goes so far. And now I make sure the margins cover this stuff, but it's still an overhead for us, but it's worth every penny. We get people writing in going, oh my God, they post pictures. I got a koozie and a signed
Yeah, or
letter.
you
You know,
said, yeah,
yeah,
repeat orders that you recognize,
yeah,
might
just
throw a shirt in or something, and people get really excited about that. I used to
yeah,
carry koozies around with me all the time, and I would hand them out at bars and stuff. I think we were down in Charleston and handed some out, and somebody wrote in, I think, through the website and
yeah.
was just like, "Oh, I love this." Now I'll actually be at the beach sometimes, and I'll see them occasionally out at the beach, and I'm like, "Oh, that's me,"
Right. Uh, so
and
we've
I get all
sold.
excited.
Oh, well, we got to be hitting like 40,000 bottles off the whips, you know, and every single one of them had something, card, koozie, something. I hope we, when we do get huge, which we will be a household name within 50, 60 years.
Well, that's a stretch of a time, yeah. I
Oh
was thinking
yeah,
it'd be like 5 years. I was like, yeah, that's good. Okay.
5 years. Let's just say 5 years. You know,
5
we
years.
gotta.
There you
You
go.
want to stay, you know, grounded. But I hope we can continue. Whatever happens to the company, I hope we can continue to do stuff like that. Uh, just because Sweet Baby Ray's would never do that. They would just never do.
Yeah, well, and
I hate the
it's more. Well, not just them specific. I mean, it's a
yeah.
big company, but and I've had health issues. Recently, just had recently a clean bill of health, but I've had stage 4 esophageal cancer that I was being treated for the last 2 years. So Mike's really run this solely on his own a lot while I was recovering and going through treatment and stuff. But that's something that's also just maybe like I want Ogre Sauce to stay around. I want it to be here when I am gone because you
That was
know
scary. It's scary.
it's,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think I'll be here in 50 years. And I don't know if I'll be here in 5 at this point. But that's I want I would like ogre sauce, the sauce itself, because it makes me think of my grandmother and all that. I want it to have longevity and stay around, but I would like us to stand for something and just have that presence.
Yeah.
That if we can make it to that next level here, that we maintain throughout whatever we do.